Hey, this is Josh for Retooled.net, and in this video I'm going to talk about some of the new features in Premiere Pro 7.1. Now there are a ton of new features, so I'm not going to cover all of them, but I'm going to cover the major ones that I think are going to be most important to you guys. So let's get right to it. The first one I want to talk about is the new Add Edit command functionality. Now of course Add Edit has been in Premiere, but the way it's worked in the past is it worked based on track toggles. And what I mean by that is if I hit Command K, the command for Add Edit, it would make a cut to all of my tracks. And that's because all of my video tracks here are targeted. If I undo that and untarget video 3, it makes a cut to everything but video 3. But if I wanted to just make a cut to video 3, I'd have to hold Shift, turn them all back on, hold Shift again, turn them all back off, and then select video 3, and now hit Command K. And as you can see, that's a big pain in the ass. So we're not going to do that. The new behavior, what it allows you to do is just select the clip you want to make a cut to. So now if I want to make a cut to V4, I can select it and hit Command K. If I want to make a cut to V3 and V2, I can select the two of them and hit Command K. And you get the point. So I think that's a great new functionality that's been added in preferring clip selection over track selection. Let's move on to Multicam. So in 7.01, they added the ability to have this Multicam view right in line in your program monitor. And that's great, but they've improved upon it here. So let me show you a few of the new features. If I go into the Multicam sequence here, I can come in and I could throw some effects on these clips. So I'll just choose some presets from Color Retooled, and I'll just pick some obvious ones. So let's go over to the special category, and I'll throw cartoon edges on one of these. Then I'll come over to tints and do a cool shadow warm highlight, and then I'll do a golden glow, and then I will do a vintage number 1. So if I come back to my multicam sequence, the cool new feature is that I can see all of my effects right in line here in my multicam preview. And of course I can start cutting between my angles. If I undo that, the other new cool feature is the ability to edit camera order. So if I come up here to the drop down when I'm in the multicam view, there's a new option called Edit Cameras. And what that allows me to do is turn cameras on and off, but also reorganize camera order. So I could change the order of my cameras here, hit OK, and now you can see they've been reorganized. So I can switch which cameras I'm cutting to and which camera is my camera 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Which makes it a lot easier to get your multicam sequence organized. Let's move on, and I'll show you another cool feature, which is editable sequence setting. So if I come over here and right click on my multicam sequence here, I can go up to the sequence settings, and even though this is already a created sequence that has media in it, I can change things that include the render codec and even the frame rate. Now of course if you change the frame rate, you might get some weird results where there's a frame gap between clips and things like that, because you're changing the frame rate. So that's to be expected, but at least the options are there, and again you could change your render codec as well. Another new feature is the ability to work with cinema DNG files. So if I come on over to my media browser and navigate to a cinema DNG file, you'll notice that media browser is smart enough to detect the image sequence and only show it to you as if it were a video clip. If I right click and hit reveal in Finder, you'll see this is actually an image sequence made up of a number of still frames. But in Media Browser, it knows it's an image sequence. So if I bring that into my project, I can work with it just like any other clip. And if I bring that in, I can of course come in and scale that to my frame size and work with it just like any other video clip. I can make edits and basically do anything that you would with a video clip. So it's great, especially for Blackmagic camera owners, to be able to work with the cinema DNG files natively without converting. Now obviously the file size is still big and they are a bit tougher to play back on slower systems, but the power is there. Another huge new feature is monitor overlays. If I come over here and look at my program monitor, I can come in and turn on overlays. Now that's a new drop down and you can see already what it's doing. But if I come over here and go to overlay settings, that's where the real power lies. So if I come over to settings, you can make your own presets, and you could pick from 4 corners of the screen, which basically correlate to here, 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 but you could also choose the top alignment, vertical alignment, and you'll see that'll center it. Or I could come back in and basically move it all along any of the sides. And you could choose what information you're showing. So I could show source time code on the left, like is going on here, and all markers on the bottom. I could leave the top blank. I could even come in and change my text size and my overlay opacity. So let's say I want some really big text just to show you the point, I can do that. If I come back to overlay settings, I'm going to bring that down to a smaller size again. And you'll also notice that I have the ability to choose whether I'm including 4:3 safety margins and define what those margins are. And another cool thing, I can even enable my overlays for transmit. So if I'm playing out to a client monitor and want my client to see something like shot name, I can do that. And I can choose whether they're enabled during playback or only when the sequence is paused. So if I hit OK, you'll notice the new smaller type. And if I come on over here to a marker, you'll see it's a little bit hard to read in this case, but you can read the marker comments right on the screen as well. Let's move on to the new frame hold options. So I have a clip here, and I'll turn off the overlay for now. And let's say I want to make a freeze frame of a certain frame. Now, it used to be a bit of a pain in Premiere, but now it's really easy. So let's say I want to make a freeze frame right at that point. I have a couple of new options. I could come on over here and hit Add Frame Hold. And what that'll do is take from that frame forward in the clip and convert it to a freeze frame. So if I hit that, now the rest of the clip has been frozen. And the cool part is I can now extend it past my clip boundaries. It doesn't matter what the original clip length was. So I'll undo that a couple times and show you another option. I want to make a freeze frame, but then I want to go back into normal speed. So I can do that as well. I'll right click and hit Insert Frame Hold Segment, and now you'll see it'll hold and then go back to the rest of the clip. And I'll undo that again. Now I also have another option if I want to do it the traditional way. I can come on over to Frame Hold Options and I can hit Hold on Time. And that's basically going to hold the whole clip based on wherever the playhead is. Or of course I can scrub it and change the time. So let me start that again, right click, go to Frame Hold Options, hold on time, and hit OK. And now the whole clip has been frozen to that time. So there are a bunch of cool new options added to the frame hold. And again, once you hold it, you can change the length of the clip to whatever you like, and it's not going to give you any errors like it used to that the clip duration isn't long enough. So that's a really, really great addition. Another nice addition is the new interpret footage options. So this clip was shot in slow motion. So in order for it to get to playback at more of a real speed, I interpreted the footage at 48 frames a second instead of 24 frames a second. The problem with that is interpret footage wouldn't be carried over if I were to make a clip offline and then relink it. And obviously that's a really huge problem. So what I'm going to do now is right click on the clip, click on Reveal in Project. Once that's open, I could come in and hit Make Offline. I'll tell it I want it to remain on disk. So now that clip is offline. If I want to relink it, I could just right click and hit Link Media, and it knows where the clip already was. But the biggest and most important part of this is this new checkbox that says Preserve Interpret Footage Settings. So I obviously want to keep that checked and hit Locate. Hit OK, and now I hit play, and it's exactly the same speed as it should be. Now if I didn't have that checked, let me show you what would happen. Come on over here, reveal it in project again, make it offline, then I will link media again, uncheck that box, again hit locate, hit OK, and now you'll notice it's playing in slow motion, and that's not what I wanted. So this is a really nice enhancement to let you use interpret footage in a scenario where you might have to relink media. If I move on to the 8th new feature, Ripple Sequence Markers. And this is something that's been added, and you'll see what happens. Let's say I want to do a ripple edit on this clip and make my timeline shorter, but this marker needs to correlate to a certain time in this clip. So if you watch, I'll do a ripple edit, trim that clip, and you'll notice that marker followed. So let's say I were to make a cut here and do a ripple edit, you'll notice all 3 markers follow. And this setting can be found to be turned on or off under the marker menu, Ripple Sequence Markers. Another cool new enhancement is the ability to copy a transition and paste it to multiple clips at once. So all you have to do is select the transition and hit Command-C or go to Edit Copy. Then you need to select the edit points you want it to add to. So instead of just marqueeing, that's not going to work. What I need to do is Command Marquee and drag it around the exact edit points I want it to add to. So now with the edit points selected, I could hit Command-V and paste that same transition to all these other clips in one step. Moving on for another quick enhancement, the ability to reverse speed. And of course we've had that ability before, but there's a new quick enhancement to let you do it just a little faster. So if I hit Command R to open the clip speed duration dialog, it used to be that if I wanted this clip at 200% but reversed, I would have to hit 200 and then check on reverse speed. Now that wasn't that big of a deal, but there's a new enhancement that just lets me type in -200, hit OK, and now it is reversed and it is at 200%. So if I come back into that dialog box with Command R, you'll notice that reverse speed was checked for me. And of course, if you're coming from Final Cut 7, that's something you would be used to. Let's move on over to number 11, changing the trim type. Now, in the past, if you had selected a clip and you wanted to make a trim, if you wanted to change the trim type to say a ripple from a roll, you'd have to hit some extra shortcuts. So let me show you how that works. Right now, I have this set up as a trim, so that's the way it works. If I want to change this to a ripple, I can't just hold Command like I would normally do to switch to a ripple edit or a roll edit. What I have to do is hold Command and Shift to allow me to change the edit type. And that's how that worked in the past. And of course it can still work that way. But there's a new preference. If I come on over to Premiere Pro, Preferences, go over to the Trim Settings, there's this new checkbox that says Allow current tool to change trim type of previously selected edit point. So if I check that, hit OK, now I have this clip selected, and without holding Shift, I could just hold Command and change to a roll edit or a ripple edit without ever having to either click off the clip or again hold Shift. So it's just a nice feature that for me I will always keep checked. Now the 12th thing I want to talk about is simple, and that's that we can see sequences as if they were footage. So you'll notice there's a little icon that lets you know it's a sequence, but you can still hover scrub them and see a nice thumbnail for them. So you can see exactly what's in what sequence without having to worry about clicking into it and opening it in the program panel. Number 13 is the ability to render all sequences at once. So what I can do is come on over here and I'll just switch to list view just so it's easier to see, and I'll select all my sequences, and then I could go to sequence, render into out, and I can render all of my sequences at one time, which is really great if I want to step out to lunch, step out of the room for a few minutes, and just make sure all of my sequences have been rendered and not wait for them to render later. And number 14, and I've saved the best for last here, which is direct link to SpeedGrade. So it's exactly what it sounds like. You can take a Premiere project and without rendering anything out, open it in SpeedGrade, do your color correction, and again without rendering anything out, just return to Premiere and keep working. So if you make edit tweaks, there's no worries. If you change your sequence timing, again, no worries. You can just go back and forth between the two programs. And another cool feature of this is that you can start with your looks in Premiere, or you can start with them, of course, in SpeedGrade. So let me show you what I mean by this. I'm gonna go over to my effects bin, and of course I have Retooled.net's Color Retooled installed. And these are just a bunch of preset looks that you can install, and if you click on them, there's a bunch of black and white, brightness, contrast, special looks, and things like that. So if I want to start with a preset like this, I can start with my look in Premiere. And then if I need to tweak it, I can go right back into SpeedGrade and have full editability without worrying about having to save out a new look. So let's start with one of the vintage looks. If I come on over here, I'm going to hit Vintage 3 and put that on this clip. And you can see right away, if I hit home and hit play, I can play back my look. And I will tell you, performance has been greatly improved in 7.1 with the Lumetri looks. I'll come on over to this clip and I'll pick something crazy and do cartoon with color. And I have this sort of cartoony edge with some color behind it. And these two clips I'll leave for grading in SpeedGrade. So now all I have to do is come on over and go to direct link to Adobe SpeedGrade. It's going to ask me to save my project because SpeedGrade is actually going to open up my Premiere project directly. If I hit yes, it will close out of this project in Premiere. Then it will bring me right into SpeedGrade with all of my clips intact. So if you take a look, I have the same number of video tracks, and of course I have all 4 of my clips. If I come on over here, you can see what the look is made up of. Now in this case there is an auto color match, so it's not that exciting to look at, but there's also 2 primaries, this one being used with a vignette, and you can see that there's a mask on it. If I come on over to the mask tab, I can do anything I want, like change the shape of that vignette. And I could come on over to this other clip here and again see what's making it up. So again, there's a vignette happening here. I could tweak the shape of that. Let's say I want to move it over. I can do that as well. So it's as easy as that to tweak your looks. Now I'm going to come on over to these clips and add some new looks. So again, I'm just going to do something really crazy so it's very apparent when we come back into Premiere. So basic grading, I could come over here and tweak my shadow levels, tweak my highlight levels, also known as offset and gain. But let's say I want to create just an insane look, so we make sure it's on there. There's a nice tint on that one, or not so nice tint, and I'll just do the same sort of exaggerated look on this clip. So if I hit save, and I hit this button to send it back over to Premiere, it's going to say, do you want to save changes? And of course I do. So it'll open it back up in Premiere, and you can see my same looks have been applied. And if you look at these clips, it has the same looks and the vignettes have been moved. And without ever having to render or worrying about a complicated back and forth, I'm just doing my color correct in the 2 programs almost as if they were one. But of course I have the full power of SpeedGrade to work with. So let's say I need to tweak these looks. I could come on over here. If you click on it and go to the effects control, you'll see it's just a Lumetri look, so of course I could disable it at any time. Another nice workflow is to work with an adjustment layer, so I can just enable and disable that track instead of doing it on the clip. So let me show you what the adjustment layer workflow would be. Come on over here, make a new adjustment layer, and I could do one big adjustment layer for all the clips, or I could come in and go to the blade tool, make a bunch of quick cuts at the edit points, whichever I prefer. So let's say I'm going to undo that. I just want one big adjustment layer to put a vignette over my whole sequence. I could do that. Come on over here, go back to direct link to SpeedGrade, save it out, and now it will open up in SpeedGrade, but this time you'll notice I have my adjustment layer here. So I could come on over here and make a new mask. And I'll just start with a preset, add some feathering, and then I'll scale this. So let's just say I want to do something very simple like a vignette. I could come on over here, tell it to use my mask here, and let's just make it darker on the edges. So I'll darken up my midtones, darken up my shadows, and there's a sort of obvious vignette that I've applied. And again, let's just do something drastic so you guys can really see it. I'm going to make my midtones come down over here toward green. And you can see, again, because I told it to work only on the mask, I have this sort of green vignette. And if I shut that off, you can see the before and after. Again, I could hit save, just hit direct link to Premiere. It'll open back up in Premiere. And there's my vignette. Now, of course, now that it's on an adjustment layer, I could just easily disable that clip or disable the whole track. So there's a ton of ways you can use this. You can even, of course, use blending modes. If I come on over to opacity, I can say put this on multiply and take advantage of that workflow as well. So there's a ton of things I can do, and the application is really going to be crazy once people get their hands on this. So I'm looking forward to this getting out in the public. Of course, if you want to check out Color Retooled, you can buy that from the Retooled.net website. get a look at some of these awesome presets for only $12.99. It's worth a try. And again, these are some simple presets. They're targeted at editors who don't necessarily want to jump too much into SpeedGrade. So let's say I come on over to this clip, and I'm going to shut my adjustment layer off. And let's say I want to just make this one brighter. I could throw a brighter 20% on there and say, oh, that looks a lot better. And say, you know what, let's just go a little bit more. So add another 10% brighter and throw that right on and just stack these. And of course, I can tweak these in SpeedGrade as well. So I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope you enjoy this new update. Be sure to check out our new product, Color Retooled, which is a set of looks presets for Premiere Pro CC. A ton of easy presets that you can use in Premiere and SpeedGrade CC to quickly edit the look of your clips. Everything from brightness and contrast to vintage effects to things like vignettes that editors can quickly add to their clips and keep working. Also check out Relink Retooled, our conform tool for Premiere and Final Cut that will let you conform to your QuickTime media of different durations and file names than your original media. You can use it with combinations of tape name, file name, and of course you could use partial tape name and file name combined with metadata like timecode and frame rate to help you relink your clips quicker and easier than ever before.